This is Brownie's Podcast.
Welcome to Brownie's Podcast. It's Campbell Brown, it's Jonathan Brown, it's myself, Dean Thomas. It's been a big ass round of footy. Bevo, people are calling for his blood. There's blood in the water. We'll get to that. Lethal went on TV and put a bullet in someone.
What?
Oh, Royzer, one of our degenerates, has sent me some audio of Tim Gossage in Perth losing his mind over goal reviews. Gostradamus, man.
Gossage.
So we'll play that later on as well. But a big podcast.
I'm absolutely cooked, Dino.
Why? What are you doing?
We've been working all weekend. Our podcast, if you missed it, bonus podcast drop with Scuzzy Schofield, the Backchat boys from WA.
Yes.
Me and Dino went over there on Gather Round. You still hadn't made it over there, Brown Dog, but that was dropped on the weekend under Brownie's podcast as bonus episodes.
Dog, it was JB rolling out classic after classic. We're talking the naked bungee jump. We're talking his first car. All of JB's classics that we know and love. Yeah. It was great seeing Scuzzy hear him for the first time.
It was great. It was. We had a great chat. The Backchat boys are dominating the podcast world, especially over there.
Yeah.
We threw a lot of towards the West Coast Eagles.
Yeah.
The Eagles finally came good. And on the Simo may have played some of my chat on the podcast because listening back, I called the West Coast Eagles a club.
Yeah, well,
May have played it to the boys before they ran out on Sunday.
they were good.
They
They were due, and they were right for the pickings, Richmond, especially when Tim Taranto pulled out with that fracture in his arm. And
what happened? He tripped over a training. The captain's walk.
Who knows?
What are you implying? What are you saying? Who knows for?
Well, no, it's just crazy to think that you could get hurt during the captain's
Like
run.
the walkthrough.
Yeah,
But he's broken his wrist. Remember when Dane Rampy went for a run? And
that's right.
He jumped the chain link fence and tripped and broke his wrist.
Yeah.
I like when dogs are implicated in obscure injuries.
Jordan DeGoey.
Yeah, that's right.
That was a fake dog.
A frisbee?
A fake dog.
I was asking Bucks about this the other night off air. Did you ever believe one Skerrick of the Jeremy Howe and Jordan DeGoey? He goes, let's say I didn't inquire too deeply.
Well, you'd want to believe them because you wouldn't think that they'd sit there and lie to you.
What was their story? What was their exact story? Do you remember?
Well, I think there was. I don't know. Jordan DeGoey said he was he throwing the ball to his dog and he somehow broke his finger.
Mate.
And it was later found that he might have whacked someone in a pub.
You've got to try when you're lying, but you can't try too hard because too many details you get into trouble.
That's it. Exactly right.
All right, so my Eagles, pretty good, hey?
Yeah,
but
Harley Reid, he's a star. You know, he's been building towards a really, really big, dominant game, and we saw that. That's the best game of his career to date. Elliot Yo's back in form.
Yes.
Great to see the resurgence of Waterman, who was cast last year.
6 big ones.
What about, he's a country boy, Harley Reid, country Victorian boy.
Tongala.
So not a hell of a long way from Hobart. What about in 4 years time when
your
the
mouth.
Tasmanian Devils have access to any player that's out of contract, Dog?
Jonathan.
Would he be the first $2 million a year player?
He might be, but he'll never leave Perth. I was rolling around Perth on Thursday and Friday because I was over there. And
just like Chris Judd wasn't going to leave Perth.
well, Harley Reid gets free fruit and veggies.
Mate.
He does. He walks into a place, can pick anything he wants, fruit and veggies and everything, and just walks out. All he has to do is just do a post on the way out,
The
mate.
reason Harley Reid is staying at the West Coast is because he gets free fruit and vegetables.
Daily produce.
He's the produce king of WA.
Mate, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to cane corns me. He's not going anywhere, you son of a bitch.
Mate, Tasmania, just like they did when the Gold Coast Suns came into the competition.
They stole
The elite talent of the
They
Colt.
backed the truck up at Mel's place and just loaded him up with all this cash, shovels and shovels of cash. And then, mate, he could be the Campbell Brown of this generation.
All right, let's go to
But I know how, because he gets free produce, he'll be loyal.
fresh produce, man. Adelaide, Carlton.
There's some good games, weren't there?
Wild.
Yeah, there were some average games and there were some great games. The Giants and Saints game with 1 pointer, and obviously Adelaide came back from behind.
Did always kick the ground?
He did. He stubbed his toe.
Poor
I was
bastard.
doing that game.
Did Neil Spalding.
Mate, there was a great crowd. There's nearly 50,000 people. It was really loud. Good on the Carlton supporters. But backs to the wall, Adelaide Crows. I actually didn't mind the Crows coming into this game. I thought their zip and 4 record, they hadn't been that bad. The Blues, 4 and zip, and they hadn't been that good. There wasn't much in it. They've got a few injury problems. They got a couple more during the game. Sard and McGovern got injuries. So anytime you get multiple injuries to the same area of the ground, which those boys obviously had defenders, they lost Chera before the game to a hamstring as well. And the Crows started to get their game together. They played well. They kicked accurately. Texas starting to get back into some really good form. You know, and under pressure, they've got Rochelle and Rankin, 2 of the most dynamic young players in the competition. They're always going to be dangerous, I thought.
Are they still too dependent on Tex? Like, he hasn't fired in the first 4 or 5 weeks of the year, and they lose. And then he kicks 4, and all of a sudden, they're winning games. Where's their next key forward going to come from?
Well, the problem is, Fogarty probably hasn't reached the heights that they thought he would. Now, he's still a younger key position player. Rory Thilthorpe, which is always tough to say, he's out with injury. So they need one of those 2 boys to be the next Tex, to be the pop-up. I think they were hoping Fogarty would be that man. Hopefully Thilthorpe will. So that'll be the challenge. I like the young key defenders. Plenty of courage. Mike Lanny, Worrell was good. Mark Keen's doing well, the Irishman.
He's good.
I really like him. Jordan Butts did a good job. So
Butts!
They did a pretty handy job considering Mackay and Kerno were on the other team. But it was a great game of footy,
Absolutely.
Dino. And it just shows how even the comp is, because Carlton were 3rd, Adelaide were 15th, but I didn't think there was that much difference between the 2 clubs coming in.
The starts for big teams mean that it's going to be, there's more chance that they'll come back at the end of the season because so many teams have had a
There's no margin for error, and the pressure builds because you're chasing. You're always chasing. You can't manage your list. You got to play players a little bit underdone because you need to bank wins to get back onto even playing field. So that's where a good start. You can start looking ahead, resting a player leading into a bye, and really
There's no margin for error, is there?
Managing your training programs and your players and just all that sort of stuff, which you can't do because you need to win every single week, and that builds pressure.
Absolutely. Brisbane bounced back, though. I think Brisbane can come back.
You reckon?
I do. I think they're in pretty reasonable shape, and they'll get Ashcroft back, and they had a dominant win on Thursday night against another top 4 challenger. So I think that really shows where they're at. Not sure about Collingwood. They had the bye, so can they get themselves going? But it certainly is hard to build back from there because you don't have the margin for error.
Sent a message, John, your boys, to the Ds. Not bad at all.
They did. They sent a message, a strong message.
You see Charlie outrun that guy? He took a mark and then took a look at the defender and said, "You can kiss my ass. I'm just going to outrun you."
Charlie was back, wasn't he? Hey, what do you think, Dog? Because you didn't do the episode on Friday. Bucks filled in nicely for you.
Every time Bucks does an episode, I don't listen to it.
There's a big spike.
Was it a good episode? I refuse to listen.
Mate, there was articulate points. There was some listening. We missed you, man. But
no, I'm just kidding. Of course I listen.
Bucks is always
outstanding.
He's a specimen, Bucks, isn't
What about me?
he made a...
oh, man.
He made I can't remember what he was talking about in the end, but he made some couple of good points that I've completely forgotten about.
Well, they must have been good. You're going to have him again 3 times in the next month because I'm off to Kentucky next Sunday.
The Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, so I'll check in. Please, with you.
Man,
but
please check in.
Hey, just one thing, because we don't redo the game from Thursday night, but we want your opinion, Dog, on the old Noah Answorth, the old tissues wiping the eyes to Harry Petty. Obviously is a reference to what happened a couple of years ago when Harrison Petty had a couple of tears because Dane Zorko went hard at him.
Yeah, look, I mean, is it a bad look? Yes. Will Melbourne supporters take offence to him in the future, maybe boo him and things like that? Yes, but that's got to come with part of the action, right? But it's not homophobic, it's not racist, it's not, I wouldn't even say it's bullying in the workforce. It's just, a bit of banter out there that probably goes past the acceptable level.
I could not believe the bullying was brought up.
Mate, it's just ridiculous.
How ridiculous. I wish we could swear on this podcast. These are grown men playing professional sport, the highest level of professional sport in this country, and you're saying it's bullying.
Well, do you remember...
absolutely
John.
ridiculous, because there's been, don't worry, there was a fair build up to the Petty incident a couple of years ago. So the Melbourne boys weren't guilt free with some of the stuff that was going towards Dane Zorko and the other boys. So they were just responding. Now, yes, it's gone too far. Even Dane Zorko said, no Answorth, you've got to pull up. It's not a good look. But hey, bullying, give me a spell.
Well, I remember there was an article written in the Herald Sun last year when the Sydney Swans targeted Nick Dacos, right, in his first season.
Yeah.
They went after him, and And
Because he's a boy.
right,
He's a young fella coming in.
They Mark Robinson wrote an article saying that what Sydney did to this young, up and coming star was bullying, physical right, which is what AFL football's all about.
It's not bullying, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, to have an opinion like that, imagine what they would have said now when Mal Michael and Leper and the Scott boys went at Nick Rewald.
I know.
When we hurt his shoulder all those years ago and Rui ended up in tears on the bench.
I remember that.
Mate, that was just good, play on.
That was
Just good, honest play.
If Nick Rewald had a nice hedge around his property in Brighton, it would have been lit on fire.
That's weird. Why would you say that?
I don't know.
That's really
a weird
strange. Hey, Saints is 6 straight and almost stole it from GWS. That was pretty sick.
That was unbelievable game. They kicked the last 6 goals, didn't they? They were fantastic.
Freo.
Sam Taylor.
Sorry.
The Fox footy doing the game, boys, and they didn't show the Taylor incident because that looks sickening. Thank God he's all right. He got badly knocked out early in the game, and it was right on the boundary, so it was right there in front of the crowd. It was an unfortunate accident.
Yeah.
Things happen in the game. But great foresight by Adam Kingsley, who was coaching on the bench, quickly assembled his GWS boys. And then Rossi Lyon was up in the coach box. He thought, hang on a minute, this is a good idea, because it was about a 10-minute rest. Rossi quickly ran down and assembled his troops because they were getting their ass kicked.
Yeah.
Shows the influence of a coach.
No
and the interesting
shit.
topic about, do we need a timeout? Because Rossi Lyon, after what he directed his players, obviously changed a few things. They got themselves straight back into the game. So it was like a timeout. But it was a sickening incident. Fox didn't replay it, but it looks like Sam Taylor's going to be okay because I think he's probably universally regarded as the best defender in the competition.
Absolutely no doubt about that. He's a star, and they lost him when he went down. All of a sudden, they changed the structure for the Giants, and the Saints got back in the contest.
An interesting quirk with the concussion rules, he now gets 12 days. So he not only misses this week, but the following week is on the 12th day.
Yep.
So he will now miss at least 2 weeks.
Jeez.
Now, people say the optics of it, he should be missing 2 weeks anyway, but even if he passed the test, he won't be allowed to play because he won't have cleared 12 days. Hey, Dino, what do you reckon about Charlie Dixon going hard at his coach? Him and Kenny Hinkley in strong discussion at one of the breaks during the game. Reminded me a little bit of Travis Kelce and Andy Reid in the Super Bowl. Now, he didn't knock Kenny over.
He didn't get physical, did he?
He didn't get physical with him.
I remember Summer at the Wacker did a finger sign to the box one night.
Did he?
Yeah, he kicked a goal and then looked at the box and flipped the 2 fingers up.
I remember a couple of times where the runner would come out and pass on a message, and I would say to the runner, Craig Starsfitch, you go back and tell that old prick to go and get effed. And I said, and make sure you deliver it like that. Of course, he never did.
Surely you've never had an argument with the coach.
No,
sure.
never. The only I always just Clarko would say do this, and I'd say yes, sir. No problems. But the only time I ever fired up at Clarko wasn't in a game, at training, anything like that. I'd hurt my shoulder in a game of footy, got a knee in the scapula actually, and had a little crack through the scapula, so I was going to miss a week or two until it healed. And it was the second time it had happened, right? And I remember I was in the medical rooms on the Monday, and Clarko sort of walked in to see how I was going and asked the doc, what's with Browny's shoulder? Is he right to play this week? And they said, no, he's got a fractured scapula. And he looked at me with a smirk, and he goes, geez, mate, you've got chalky bones. I'm going to start calling you chalky, right? And I was so ropeable, because he goes, drink some more milk, chalky. And I was sort of like this. I chased him out of the medical room, up the hallway. I wouldn't have done anything had I caught him. I mean, I couldn't because I only had one wing.
Filthy.
I was filthy.
Chalky bones.
Mate, it was so offensive. I've been called a lot of names before, but don't call me chalky.
Be calling you Chalky for the rest of this podcast.
Brownie's podcast. Chalky.
Long it lasts.
Let's go to Chalky's Corner now with Chalky.
Hey, when we finally get Clarko on the podcast, which might be a few years away, we'll get him on eventually. I can't wait to ask him about Chalky.
Mate, I got hit by Nigel Smart one day, like a Mack truck from behind.
Yeah.
That should have broken every bone in any person's body. I don't have weak bones, all right? I've gone and tested the density of my bones. My bones are okay.
Believe me,
it's the force I get hit.
No, didn't you break your hip as well?
Yeah, I did.
Right, Chalky. What's wrong with you? You call yourself a hard man.
I don't know.
Come on.
Freo, another real close one to a good team. So if you're a Freo fan, you're going to just hold on. That sucks. 2 real close losses. But they're still doing pretty good.
Could be absolutely. They just can't score, Dino. Yeah, they're hard. They are a hard watch. I know Justin Longmuir cops criticism for this, but they are a hard watch. Now, good on them for setting the game up that way and giving themselves an opportunity, but you've got to be able to score, Dino. You can't survive in September unless you're kicking close to 15 goals a game. So that's going to be the question mark going forward.
All right.
Do you even care about, you're a West Coast sport, do you even care about Fremantle?
No, I'm very conscious of being kind to them because they're doing all right, and I don't want to be a dick.
Yeah.
But the Freo fans, that's where I get some triggering happening.
I just miss since I haven't been investing in the Freo Dockers since Clive Waterhouse left.
Oh, the great Clive.
How much fun was it when Clive Waterhouse rolled out?
Oh, mate, he was the best.
Do you know he was a great soccer player too?
Really?
Fun fact.
Big albino.
Oh, yeah. Hey, we're going to take some ads and we're going to talk about Bevo because everyone's coming for him now.
Well, guess what? I've got an insider.
Lethal, you're going to hear this audio of him teeing off on one of Bevo's players. Oh, boy. And Tim Gossage, this is golden audio of him losing his mind after the ad. Welcome back to Brownie's podcast. We're about to get stuck into the doggies. So Bevo, people are coming for him. They can smell blood. Lethal teed off on Tim English, which I can't wait to play the audio of that. If you're Tim English, it would sting, man.
Jeez, he'd be sore. I hope he doesn't watch the footy first. Tim English.
Speaking of Tim English, TLA, our management group, had a function recently, and Gary Lyon was there, and he's there with his son as well that works at SEM. And they jumped in the lift to go down the lift to leave. Yeah. I don't know if Gaz had a few or not, but blonde-headed guy sort of got in the lift and
he hadn't had a few, which makes it even
right.
worse.
Yes. He looks up and he goes, Rory Lobb, and everyone sort of went quiet, and they went, no, it's not Rory Lobb, that's actually Tim English. The great football minds.
They look nothing.
You had a moment.
They look nothing alike.
Nothing. No.
They're both about 6'6", but that is the comparative feature.
Oh, guys.
Guess what,
amazing. Yes. Speaking of the dogs. Speaking
of the dogs, we've got an insider. None other than the great Tony Liberatore.
Oh, man, this is big.
Come on, Dino.
This is
Phone
big.
number on.
Liber.
How are you, mate?
Liberatore.
Welcome to Brownie's podcast, brother. It's Jonathan Brown, Campbell Brown, and myself, Dino. Good to hear your voice, man.
Brown and Dino, okay.
Yes.
How'd you pull up, old son? Now, did you captain coach of the Northside Lions? You had your first game yesterday against the defending premiers. Geelong, are they called anyway? Down Geelong way. How'd you go?
Yeah, down Geelong, down at Moolap. We got rolled by about. We're in front of three-quarter time. They haven't lost a game in 3 years. They're pretty well drilled, so they're a bit like the Brisbane Lions of the old days, I think, mate.
Now, you are obviously holding up, still in very good nick, mate, 'cause you're still playing. I heard Ken dish out a fair old spray too, Dino. Now, obviously, you don't have chalky bones like my co-host. Campbell Brown just revealed a story how Alistair Clarkson used to call him chalky because he thought he had chalky bones. Obviously, you don't have the chalky bones, Libber.
Well, no, you're probably wrong there because I broke my ankle last year in the grand final. Might have been a bit chalky that day, but anyway, they had a go. They got after me, but I'm back now, so it's all good.
68 years of age. I'm sorry, 58 years of age, Liver. So, no, 58. I've given you another decade. Mate, still playing on the back of nearly 300 AFL games. Do you reckon, in all seriousness, you would have played 13, 14, 1,500 games of football in your life?
Probably, I don't know, mate. Look, it's not the footy now. It's not that. Oh, look, it was pretty competitive yesterday, but yeah, maybe, mate. Look, I just love playing footy. You know, we catch up. We have train once a week. Really good lads, and we have a few beers after training, have a bit of a chat, and it's good camaraderie, and gets all the boys away from their wives or girlfriends.
You still love your beloved doggies, and obviously your son's still dominating for them. Do you have an opinion on Luke Beveridge and how he's coaching at the moment, and if there needs to be some sort of change at the doggies?
Oh, look, I don't really want to comment on that. Look, the poor bloke, I think we started pretty well. Had 2 good wins against, even though on Gold Coast and West Coast, and pretty competitive in Melbourne the first game. They just blew us away. And then I just think, you know what, like he's the coach. That's the way he does it. Like he's trying to bring some young players in, and he's probably putting a lot of players, some players who have had some really good form over the years, put them under a bit of pressure to see how they respond. footy's not always, just because you've been a best and fairest winner or All-Australian. I mean, you still got to work every year as hard for your spot. And look, at the moment, some of those guys are probably a little bit out. I'd probably, in my own opinion, I probably think maybe there's a few things he could change up in positional and things like that, But he's the coach, and he'll live by his sword and die by his sword. I guess he's been there for 10 years, so I wouldn't be throwing everything out at this stage.
And how's Tommy pulled up, Libba? Because he looked like he copped a fair hit from Jake Stringer, his old mate Jake Stringer, but he worked himself into the ground, no question about that, like he does every week. But it was interesting that he looked like he didn't have concussion, but he did fall over at the end of the game. But if he's been forced out this week, he's not going to play because they've put him into concussion protocol. Yeah,
that's interesting. Look, I don't know. Like, I spoke to him and he says he's okay, and I reckon two things. I reckon he probably ran himself into the ground, and the other thing, that hit from Stringer, he probably should have went off after that. But he stayed on the ground, so that may have had a lingering effect down throughout the game. So, but he says to me he's okay, and but I think the club have probably done the right thing and just put him out for a week, and hopefully he's back to the next game, just depending on how he's feeling, because you've got to make sure that these footy players are professionals these days and make sure they're good, and I'm sure he'll get some tests done throughout the week to make sure he's all good.
He might have chalky bones.
Yeah, he could test his bones. He could have Campbell Brown syndrome.
This is what we really got you on for, Libba. Dino's got a big question for you.
Libba, now I saw Tom on the front bar the other night, and I saw that amazing footage of you, your son, and your mum, that beautiful nonna, having dinner around that table.
Yeah, she's a beauty, Mum. She's 93. I still take her to the footy, though. She's pretty vocal, too. So, she just, she's incredible. Like, for her age, she just, church-going Italian lady who loves the church and loves the footy and can read, write English. She's writing a book about her whole life story, and she's got about five big leather-bound books, and she wants to print it one day, she tells me. So, she just loves it. She loves life. She's really resilient. Comes from a very poor background and war-torn Italy, but she's seen a lot, and she's a very positive person, which is really good.
Could be a bestseller like me and Brown Dogs books.
They didn't sell many. You don't want that. Libba, please, can we come over for one of those nonna cook-ups on a Sunday?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm sure you can. I'm sure Mum will want to charge you, so she would do that. We'll just have to get the plastic off the coffee table and the tables and all that, and the rugs and what have you. But she's got a beautiful little cavoodle dog that keeps her company, and she adores him. And I'm sure that won't be a problem.
So you might take us to confessions beforehand at the local church.
Up at Brunswick, yeah.
Church will burst into flames.
I'll be there for 2 hours.
Libba, we're serious, man. We're serious about dinner at Nonna's house.
Okay, well, I'll have to ask her first.
Okay.
I can't just sort of... but I must admit, in the past, and Tom's done the same, we've just rocked up, and whether it's his mate Dalhouse or Stringer or whoever, one of those guys who played in or a couple of my mates that I played with, and she always have a plate of pasta for someone because she cooks every day. She prepares herself meals every day, and she's very welcoming. She's very loving and giving to people.
This is amazing. Just let Nonna know that you've got 3 hungry mates coming, and we'll talk to you very soon, mate. Thanks for giving us your time. We appreciate it.
No problem, guys. Pleasure.
On your Libba.
Thanks, Libba.
One of the greats.
Yes,
one of the
he's
greats.
A star.
Now, before we take some ads, should we listen to Lethal teeing off on English?
So we're talking about the Western Bulldogs. It was interesting. The Footy Furnace, which is a new show with Jimmy
Creating
Bartell.
some waves, isn't it?
Creating some waves. Tommy Morris is the co-host, but Lethal, when he was asked about the Western Bulldogs' Tim English performance. I have heard this a couple of times. I never thought he'd go public with it, though.
Here we go.
Tim English is a big man playing like a little man at the moment. He's not playing with enough aggression.
Why is that?
I don't know why. I just know he's not.
He's out of contract. Surely this is when he wants to be playing.
I don't think it's anything to do with his contractual status, but at the moment he's not playing with enough vigour and aggression. Your big men have to play big.
Yeah.
You can't have soft big men.
You're calling him soft?
Well, he's playing soft.
Yeah, not assertive enough.
Oh, see, that's as a footballer, that's not what you ever want to hear.
As a kid to getting called chalky.
Yeah.
Mate, imagine it sitting up. Oh, you think I might just check out this new show on a Sunday night.
Mate.
Was eating his dinner watching that.
English would be flat.
Yeah.
Getting called Rory Lobb by Gaz.
Yeah.
Now soft by Lethal.
One of the greats
yes.
of the game. When he speaks, people listen. And he's used to big Clark Keating and Bo McDonald and,
Jamie
from the
Sharman.
the big rough guys.
Well, hopefully it'll fire him up a bit or something.
It should.
Hopefully it does, because he's disappointing on the weekend. That was a must-win game and they're going in as hot favourites. You'd expect them to put up a hell of a lot better performance they did against the Bombers. They were disappointing. They were the most disappointing team of the round.
He needs to get that C word in him. You know what I mean? Like just for 2 hours every week.
Ooh.
Competitive.
Competitive is the C.
Really? I thought we were going to have to beep it out of the podcast.
Ads back in a second. Welcome back to Brownie's Podcast, at Brownie's Podcast on TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff. Hey, Campbell and the Suns.
I couldn't believe it. I'm listening Saturday night. I go, is that Campbell? Is that Dog? And because he was supposed to be in Perth doing cashies, all of a sudden he's on the boundary line
busy.
at his old home ground.
What?
In I thought it was a white blazer and white runners
The
on.
beige.
He was
cream,
doing the
bone,
boundary
white.
riding.
Yeah,
Bullshit.
Gold
of
Coast
course,
v
mate.
Hawthorn.
Yeah, a couple of VFL games. Get me, performed at the level. Got the call up. Did okay. I'll be back to the VFL next week. But
Who cares?
I went up there fully expecting Hawthorn to be competitive. I thought it was going to be hard for them to knock the Suns over, but they dropped 2 games in a row.
Yeah.
And they were a couple of things. I was at boundary level, and the Suns, to a man, are buying in physically with their defensive tackles and pressure. They are
good pressure
hard
team.
Across the board. That is something that they've been a bit flaky with in the past, and Dimmer's got them playing really, really hard football, tough
Didn't
tackling.
expect anything less, though, did we, with Dimmer taking over?
But that's exactly what they needed, and their talent, mate, is ridiculous. Like they've debuted a couple of kids, Jed Walter and Ethan Reed, the big men that are hitting the scoreboard, and they're athletic. There's another young fella who played his second game last, Will Graham.
Closey.
Yeah,
Will
Closey's
Graham.
a game. Will Graham had 14 tackles. 14
Yeah, love that.
in his second game of footy.
Jesus.
They've got an appetite for the contest. Mix it with a little bit of class from Rowell and Anderson and Miller and King up forward and Ainsworth and Ballard down back. They're a really good side.
Okay, so you say Gold Coast are extremely talented and extremely hungry and hard. Would you say your team, your other former team, Hawthorn, are the complete opposite?
Yes.
They're devoid of talent and they're not having a
soft.
crack.
They
And
didn't on the
soft.
weekend. Sammy Mitchell hit him right between the eyes, and so he should publicly, privately. I'm expecting them to have a tough week on the track, like real
bring your
tough,
mouth
bring your
guards.
mouth guards. And if you lose a player during the week because...
Anytime your coach mentions that in the press conference, that we're just going to have to get to work, and if we lose a player to a corky, that usually means, hey, boys, get ready to work. Bring your mouth
True.
guards.
They
It's
were
gonna be
flaky. They didn't get their hands on the footy. They weren't up for the contest.
Limp? Would you
the
say
worst,
limp? The L word.
Yep. It's the worst performance that they've had this year. So 0-5 leads into this weekend's game against the Kangaroos, 0-5, which we'll discuss on Friday. Clarko versus Sam Mitchell. Bit of rivalry there. But
There's never been a more appetising zip and 5 game than this Sunday. Anyway, we'll talk more on Friday. But yeah, that was interesting. I tell you, I know you played for both clubs though, so I thought it was a little bit interesting though. After every single goal, the Gold Coast kicked, he then play the trumpet.
that's my legacy.
Have you seen that now?
That
What? There is a trumpeter. So all I could hear was Brown Dog commentating, and then every time Gold Coast to kick a goal, I'd hear a trumpeter. I thought, Jesus, look out, Brown Dog's doing the trumpet as well after each goal.
I know you're a showman. You tell me you went up to that trumpeter and said, matter of fact, I know my way around it.
Should have done a little cameo late in the game.
Well, I've pulled out the trumpet here on this podcast before
Yeah,
to play the
well.
last post and a few other things. I busked.
It was
but
not well.
It's not something that I can execute. And there was that many goals that his lips would have been burning.
And he wasn't just playing the Suns sort of theme, was he? He started mixing it up.
Yeah, he's mixing it up.
Just
He's
by
having
the
some
end of
fun, the big bald man.
By the end of it, he was like BB King.
Hey, shout out to Royzer in our WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
We all know Royzer. He's always
Love
there for
Royzer.
us. He's found some great audio. So in the Eagles game,
Is he the godfather of the WhatsApp group?
his spiritual leader, maybe.
Yeah.
So this is Tim Gossage on the SEN of Perth. Essentially, would you say that?
Yeah. Sausage Gossage, he's the main man over there. With Scotty Cummings, he's on with a fair bit.
So, Doc, there's been too many goal reviews, and Goss is at his end.
To Petruccelli, kick around the corner. Petruccelli has kicked the goal of the game, and the bloody goal umpire's going upstairs for the third time in a row. And the bloody goal umpire for the third time in a row is going upstairs, and it's really starting to give me the irrits. Seriously.
I think it's going to be a goal.
Clap, 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 clap. Get on with it, I say. Seriously. The game is a joke.
And now they're checking for touched off the
Oh, give me a break. That's not what the goal umpire was saying. He was saying it was on the line. It's not what happened 40 metres away.
Well, you got to get it right, though. It's got to be accurate.
I know.
You know?
Listen.
It's a goal.
Great
I just
passion.
wasted 2 minutes of my life.
Mate.
Well, it's been good comedy, Tim.
We love
man.
the passion. That is magnificent.
Mate,
And
might be a time for a welfare check on sausage. Send someone over there,
look,
Doc.
it can be frustrating, especially if it's 3 or 4 1/4. But I'd prefer to make sure you get it right.
No, they've gone too far, Dog. They've gone absolutely too far.
But you either check them all or you check none.
Our game is about moment, but some of them are absolutely ridiculous. The players, the goal umpires are either lost their nerve or they've been told by the AFL to check everything. It is ridiculous. This game is a game of momentum. We are halting momentum in games. I think it's been one of the great facets of our game in the last 4 or 5 years where teams get a run on. But then if you stop for 2 minutes like that, you lose your momentum.
Hey, you reckon if you're an on-baller, you'd love the breaks to suck some oxygen in?
Absolutely, you
Bloody
would.
oath.
Yeah.
So it's not bad for everyone.
Nah, I mean, it helps the players recuperate. But, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It's just there's no way around it unless you say to the goal umpires and the. But every time a player gets close to touching the ball, they put their hand up. So it's on the players as well. If you haven't touched it, don't pretend you have.
Do you see
It's
the
collective.
AFL? Surely the AFL, I'd say it's going too long.
Yeah, it's going too long.
You think they'll correct it in season, or do you reckon they'll wait to the end of the year?
Definitely in season.
Yeah, they'll be telling the ARC to just be a little bit more prompt.
And also, if you're in the arc, you'd be frustrated.
A little
too.
bit more prompt. Okay, boys, we're going to be a little bit more prompt.
Well,
Don't send an email out.
That's great
more
messaging.
Prompts
More
in the
prompt.
subject header.
Very succinct.
Speed on decision making.
Very succinct by the Dog.
The poor dude in the arc, or the man or woman in the arc, they'd be pissed off too. They'd be
it's
like,
not
"Why are you
his-
doing this to me?"
Well, it's not his fault. That's right. It's the goal. It's the
Exactly.
umpires, isn't it?
Oh, mate, they got more cameras there than Tommy Lee and
Yes.
Pamela Anderson on the boat.
Time for.
Remember the first time you saw... Anyway.
What a world! Now, this is one of the more ridiculous what a worlds I've ever heard because there's been a petition on change.org petition, and there's up to 22,000 people that have signed this petition, and the petition reads, should Jeff Bezos buy the Mona Lisa and then eat it? Now, why the hell would you want to do that? But they're saying that he'd be doing
he need to
humanity
feed?
a service, right? He's one of the few people in the world that can actually afford it. They're valuing the Mona Lisa at $50 billion euros, so that's 60 US. He has 194.5 billion, so he can afford to buy it. And people want him to just...
Why eat it, though?
Because the internet, that's why.
It's
Well,
the
not-
most
not-
famous artwork in the world. It's the crown jewel of France's Louvre Museum,
We
right?
know what it is. Why not we on it? Or why eat it?
I can't tell you why people have signed the petition.
Wait, can we just pause? Why did you go straight to weeing as an option? Like, one is
Well, deface it.
one is
Deface
enjoying
it some
it
sort.
and getting nourishment from it, and one is pissing on it.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll tidy it up a bit. Deface it,
sorry.
deface it some way. Why would you eat it though? Apparently, it's small enough. It is bite size.
Nourishment.
I don't think it's as big as we think it is.
Really?
Yeah. Apparently, Mona Lisa's quite small.
Quite small,
Yeah.
and, but people are saying, I feel Jeff is the guy to help humanity take this leap forward. This is the most important petition in modern times. Eat that Mona, Jeff. And I just
that Mona.
I read that and I thought of all the things that we should be petitioning about in this world, change for good.
Yeah.
That's one of the more ridiculous things I've ever heard. The Mona Lisa is a treasure. Why waste that and eat it, Jeff? So what a friggin' world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They should be petitioning to get rid of all these bloody goal reviews.
Exactly, John.
Focus on something more productive.
Yes. We're going to see you on Friday, degenerates, and preview the round ahead. In the meantime, make sure you get onto Libba because I'm serious.
Yeah, you want
man.
dinner Sunday night.
Yeah.
Not a dinner.
All right.
I'll be around Sunday night too.
Yeah.
I'll be hungry too. Good to have Dog back in the studio.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Woof.